Hey guys, how's it going? So UFC Fight Night Lopes versus Silva just wrapped up, and I'm going to run through the whole card and give you guys a rundown of everything that happened this event. So let's just get straight into it. And starting off the card on the prelims was Rodrigo Sezinando versus Daniil Donchenko. So I went with Daniil Donchenko for this one. I did think Sezinando would give him issues at points with the grappling and wrestling and takedowns and all that, but overall I thought Daniil Donchenko's striking was way too dangerous, and I thought that he would at some point, if left standing, find a finish, and I got this one correct. Daniil Donchenko took this one. First round win as well. Very, very dominant, impressive debut in the UFC from here. So early on, Sezinando's actually doing pretty good in the striking. He's keeping it even, if not losing slightly, but very, very early on, Donchenko just starts nailing him with these elbows to the face, which from the first one start cutting open the face of Sezinando, causing blood to leak down from above the nose, and causing Sezinando to panic shoot him for takedowns, where he'd usually get them, but then Donchenko would quickly get back to the feet and get clinched up against the cage before breaking, and when breaking from the first clinch of the fight, he lands another massive elbow that further cuts open Sezinando. And from there in the pocket just keeps landing big shots and elbows that would continue to cut the face of Sezinando. There is a moment where Donchenko even gets a takedown in and takes some top control. They get back to the feet. Donchenko lands this massive knee directly to the sternum of Sezinando as they're getting back up as well, which was really impressive. And then in the final minute, when Sezinando shoots him for a takedown, Donchenko sprawls it and lands this massive uppercut that really hurt Sezinando, had Sezinando backing up across the cage while Donchenko was smelling a finish and chasing him down, just tagging him with big shots before backing him up into the cage, cutting him off and absolutely unloading on him, putting him down, putting him away in the first round, end of the first round KO. Very, very impressive debut from him. He is a really fun fighter to watch who is all about getting that damage in and landing those big strikes. And I'm excited to see where he goes from here. He is really, really exciting to watch. Sezinando actually looked pretty good, probably better than most of his tough fights, but didn't quite do enough to take this one. Donchenko took a nice win here, and we'll move on to the next fight. Next up on the prelims was Montserrat versus Alice Pereira. So I went with Alice Pereira for this one. I said by a decision win. I just thought when it came to the striking, she was a lot better, and I did think that she would be a lot more dangerous in this fight with her previous fights showing some really solid striking. I got this one wrong. Montserrat took this one. It went to a really close split decision where the third round really dictated who won. But I do think it was the right call. It did look like she was a little bit better just in general in this fight. So the first round opens up and it's a very low impact round. Rendon is constantly moving forward, landing some small shots here and there. Basically just the same 1-2 combo over and over again. Meanwhile, Pereira is circling around on the back foot and occasionally landing big with the right hand. But she just wasn't really throwing anything outside of side kicks. And what she was throwing with the hands wasn't really landing. There is a moment at the end of the round though where Rendon gets some clinch time against the cage, but Pereira starts unloading, getting that damage up, landing some really good shots at the end of the round. And because of how low impact this round was, with Rendon not really throwing anything round defining, I think Pereira just takes it through landing those bigger shots later in the round. Second round opens up and it's a much stronger start from Pereira. Her hands, she's letting the hands go a lot more. She's particularly with her right hand landing a lot more. And while Rendon's just kind of landing the same 1-2 combo over again, but not really much else, not doing much damage. Pereira is landing better with the occasional right hand. But with 2 minutes left in the round, Rendon pushes Pereira up against the cage, starts landing a barrage of shots, and after they separate, Rendon just starts chasing her down, landing big shots, having Pereira hurt, and forcing Pereira to panic shoot, which looked really bad. Most of the time she gets sprawled, and in the later part of the round did get put into a rear naked choke after getting sprawled. And it's those finishing moments I think gave Rendon the second round. So I had it 1-1 leading into the third. And the third was a really concerning start for Pereira. She's shooting for takedowns every time she get tagged with a big shot. Looked really good in the striking, but didn't really let the hands go as much. Meanwhile, Rendon is just constantly pressuring forward. Really basic shot selection, just a basic same 1-2, but she's just consistently landing with it. And this round was incredibly difficult to score. Pereira was landing bigger less often, but Rendon was racking up that volume throughout the round, landing the same basic thing over and over again, and also tagging Pereira pretty heavily at points. Ultimately, it goes to a split decision. Rendon takes it just by looking that little bit better in the third. Pretty uneventful fight. There wasn't much to go off of round to round. There weren't any crazy moments in this one. Rendon did just look that little bit better. Pereira looked way too gun shy. She didn't really let the hands go. She let the kicks go occasionally, but it did not look like her usual performances. She looked way too reserved in this one. And as a result, it was a pretty uneventful, boring fight. So we'll move on to the next fight on the card. Next up on the card was Alessandro Costa versus Alden Coria. So I went with Alessandro Costa for this one. I said by a 3rd round TKO. I didn't really like Coria's record. I thought it was very on and off, especially on a regional scene. I didn't like a record like that. And I thought Alessandro Costa did have really good performances against some of the best in flyweight, so I kind of trusted him to get this one done a bit easier, especially on a late notice Coria. I was actually wrong with this one though. Alden Coria came out, won this one. Very impressive win for him here. 3rd round TKO. A really good performance from his debut. In fact, probably the best performance of his whole career so far. First round, pretty slow start to the fight. Both fighters are changing these single shots. Coria is landing a bit nicer. I thought his jab straights were connecting a bit better. Costa would land occasionally with a combo that would land pretty clean, but ultimately I thought it was Coria landing more consistently that won him this first round, just increasing the volume and landing better. He did start to get caught with his calf kicks early on, which I thought would be kind of bad for him. Costa is really nasty with his calf kicks, and you could see very early on the damage was starting to accumulate a little bit, but ultimately I think that first round still went to Coria just through landing the better shots consistently. Second round, very early in the round, Costa ends up putting himself on bottom position. He pulls guard, Coria's standing up, just falls forward, lets himself land into top position. And while Costa is constantly attempting these submissions from bottom, these triangle chokes, arm bars, he even tries a leg lock at one point, none of them are getting locked in properly. Meanwhile, Costa is just taking some massive damage with these big elbows from Coria from top position. There's a bit halfway through the round where Costa manages to reverse a takedown from Coria, takes the back of Coria, almost gets a neck crank locked in, but doesn't quite get it. And shortly after, Coria reverses back into top position and starts landing these massive elbows again on Costa. Costa ends up breaking something in his foot as well at the end of the round, or tears in between his toes in his foot. I'm not actually sure what the injury exactly was, but he gets up, hobbles to his corner barely. He really struggles to get even to his corner, and I thought the doctors were going to stop the fight there, but he manages to go into a 3rd round. But instantly in the 3rd round, you can see his movement is really compromised. Costa is just constantly backing up, not putting any pressure on his front foot, and he gets backed into the cage, to which Coria takes a chance to start unloading on his head. Costa is holding up a guard, but instantly drops to the floor, gets T-carried in the 3rd round. Really unimpressive performance from him here. I didn't really think he looked as good as he could have. Coria looked really good though. Coria, you can tell he trains with Josh Van. He had that really slick striking in this fight. Looked better than he did in most of his regional wins as well. So a good start for him in the UFC here. Pretty fun fight as well. Pretty nice striking battle. There was some good moments in the grappling. Solid fight. And we'll move on to the next fight on the card. Next up on the card, we had Zachary Reese versus Sedriques Dumas. So I went with Sedriques Dumas for this one. I said by round 2 TKO. I ultimately thought that the well-roundedness of Dumas would give Reese quite a few issues, particularly with his takedowns as well. I thought Reese kind of had a hole in his game when it came to takedown defense and ground game. And I was excited to see how this fight would go, but it doesn't really matter because in the first round the fight got called via no contest. Early on, pretty even back and forth. I'd actually say that Reese was landing a little bit better, particularly with his kicks, but almost a minute into the fight, Reese lands this groin kick. It was an inside leg kick that connected a bit far, connected directly with the cup, made quite a loud noise when it connected as well. It was a really nasty groin kick. Dumas goes down instantly, makes his way over to his corner, where when the ref goes to check up on him, Dumas says he couldn't stand up, said he couldn't feel anything down there. The doctor comes in, asks him to stand up. He used up the whole 5 minutes, and after the 5 minutes, Dumas still couldn't stand up. And the ref called it via a no contest after that. Really unfortunate ending to a fight that I thought would have been pretty even skill-wise. I was actually kind of excited to see this one, but I mean, I'm not going to say Dumas played it up or he faked it. It was a really nasty kick that connected square on. Really powerful kick. One of the worst ones I've seen in a while. But it's just unfortunate that we didn't get to see this one play out. So we'll move on to the next fight on the card. Next up on the card was Jesus Aguilar versus Louis Gurule. So I went with Louis Gurule for this one. I thought that his wrestling would carry him through this fight. I thought Aguilar did have a hole in his game when it came to takedowns and grappling. I got this one wrong though. Jesus Aguilar had a really good performance here. He pulled off the decision win. It was close at points. I wouldn't argue that Gurule did have a chance of winning, but there were moments where it was kept really close. First round, almost instantly, Aguilar just comes out the gate blitzing and landing clean on the head of Gurule, as well as doing some really nice damage to the legs with kicks. And while Gurule would land here and there, it didn't overcome the constant pressure that Aguilar was putting on him early. Aguilar kept up a really high pace early on, and on top of taking Gurule down at the end of the round, I think Aguilar takes the first round pretty clearly. Second round, a strong start from Gurule. He actually starts slowing Aguilar down, with Aguilar not really throwing much as a result of Gurule just coming out better early on, landing really nicely as well whenever they'd exchange. As the round goes on, Aguilar would start to kick the legs out from under Gurule. Those leg kicks were really starting to stack up when it came to the damage on the lead leg of Gurule. But despite that, I think Gurule takes the round, just being much stronger for the striking. He was landing a lot harder as well, and I thought he was landing consistently better in these combination exchanges. Close round though, and in the third round, Aguilar comes out the gate super aggressive again. He's landing all sorts of shots. He's throwing way more unorthodox shot selection, even managing to drop Gurule with a jab and a stiff uppercut somewhat early in the round. But when Aguilar tries to lock in a guillotine, he gets lifted up, slammed onto his back, and takes some big punishment on the ground. Nothing crazy, nothing that really had him close to being out, but there were about 3 or 4 big shots that caused Aguilar to sort of panic and cover up. And for the rest of the round, it was a super close fight. Each fighter was landing their own big shots in the close quarter exchanges. Gurule did look a bit stronger earlier, but Aguilar just started to pick it up later in the round, consistently outstruck him, mixed up his shot selection a little bit more, looked a bit better on the feet. And when it went to the decision, Aguilar took a 29-28 in a fight that was decently competitive, particularly in that third round, but I think it was a well-deserved decision win for him. This was actually a surprisingly good fight. Aguilar looked really fun in this one. He was throwing all sorts of things. The pace was kept high throughout. Gurule was keeping it competitive. I actually really liked this fight, but we'll move on to the next fight on the card. Next up on the card was Tatiana Suarez versus Amanda Lemos. So I went with Tatiana Suarez for this one. I said by round 2 submission. I just thought the grappling difference in the wrestling and takedowns would definitely give Suarez the advantage here. I thought that she'd get her down, hold her down, and maybe find a submission early in the fight. I was correct with this one. Tatiana Suarez did win this one, although it was a lot less dominant than I thought. It went to a decision. There were some really close moments as well. Breaking it down, first round, very slow start. Both fighters didn't really land much before Suarez starts shooting him for takedowns. Doesn't get them instantly, holds Lemos up against the cage for quite a big part of the first round. And there is a point where she lands a groin shot on Lemos and they reset in the center, where Lemos starts landing nicely with her kicks, but ultimately, Suarez shoots him for takedowns pretty much instantly after that, gets Lemos against the cage, manages to get her down as well in the final part of the round. For about a minute, holds her on bottom position, likely taking the round just in control time, but didn't really do much damage. Lemos did actually do a lot more damage in the first round, but couldn't overcome the control time. Second round opens up, and similar to last round, it's a very low volume fight on the feet. Suarez instantly starts shooting him for takedowns, spends most of the round holding Lemos up against the cage. Suarez did actually end up taking Lemos down and gets dominant positioning. There is a moment in the closing seconds of the round where Lemos jumps a ninja choke on Suarez while clinched up against the cage, which she actually gets him really tight. Has Suarez sort of on the brink of going out, but she knows that there's only a little bit left in the round. Holds it out, survives to the end. You can see that she was visibly rattled by the submission attempt when she's walking back to the corner, so it was in tight, but ultimately couldn't quite get her. I still think Suarez takes a second round based off control time, but that ninja choke does make an argument for Lemos. And in the third round, it's a much more aggressive round for Lemos. Pretty much a 180 because it gets to stay standing for a bit longer. And Lemos is letting the hands go a lot more. As well as the leg kicks, she's very visibly damaging that front leg of Suarez quite badly, with Suarez reacting very badly to the leg kicks. But like the rounds before, Suarez shoots him for takedowns really early on, holds Lemos against the cage for a large part of the round until she can get a double leg. There is a moment where Lemos actually does end up reversing a double leg and ends up on top position, but doesn't really do anything with it, ends up against the cage again. And in the final minutes of the round, there is a moment for Lemos. She lands a nice elbow off the break from the clinch where she has Suarez quite hurt and visibly Suarez is very visibly hurt from it, and Lemos takes that chance to chase her down. Suarez is circling around on the back foot, really hurt for a large part of that final minute, with Lemos landing really nicely to her. But Suarez pulls guard, Lemos tries to jump in and find a finish from top position, couldn't quite do it before the end of the fight, with Suarez taking a 29-28 decision just through the control time in the first two, but there were really close moments. Lemos' ninja choke looked really concerning in the second, the whole striking in the third and having Suarez really hurt on the feet was really scary. For someone like Suarez. And while I think Suarez was going to win this one, this was a lot less dominant than I predicted. I thought Suarez was going to make this one a lot more dominant. She actually looked really, really bad in the striking, which I think definitely exposed some flaws in her game. Similar to the Welly fight as well, showed that. But yeah, decently fun fight in the final bit, but not really much to write home about with so much wrestling. And we'll move on to the next fight on the card. Next up on the card, we had Claudio Puelles versus Joaquim Silva. So I went with Joaquim Silva for this one. I just thought striking-wise, he was the much more dominant fighter. I thought Puelles was a bit too one-dimensional with his wrestling and grappling, and I thought Joaquim Silva could hold his own in that department, so I went with him for this one. I got this one correct. Joaquim Silva took this one, split decision, pretty close as well. So it was kind of concerning for him. He actually took a while to get into the fight here. So first round, Silva comes out strong. He starts tagging Puelles with some big shots early on. But very early in the round, Puelles takes Silva down, holds him on bottom position for a large part of the round, landing ground and pound here, but nothing crazy. There is a moment near the end where Silva does start to make his way back to the feet, but for the rest of the round just gets held up against the cage. Puelles takes the first quite clearly just in control time. Second round opens up and instantly Puelles gets a double leg on Silva, but this time Silva makes really quick work on getting back to the feet. And while Puelles is landing here and there with these single shots, Silva's landing much harder and in combination as well. Mainly just outscoring Puelles through his volume. And in the final minute, Silva lands a perfectly placed body kick that really hurts Puelles, drops him down quite badly. Puelles starts pulling guard on the ground, and in the final second, Silva catches Puelles in a guillotine. He jumps it, doesn't quite get it before the bell goes off, but he had it in quite tight. With Silva taking the round, I think, just primarily through those final moments in the end of the round. And in the third round, very early on, Puelles goes for another takedown, but this time he doesn't quite get it. Silva gets back to the feet. He quickly breaks the body lock of Puelles, and while the fight does stay against the cage for a large part of the round, in the final minute or so, Silva just starts taking over. He starts landing big on Puelles, has Puelles hurt on the feet multiple times, constantly denying Puelles' takedowns. Before in the final 30 seconds, Silva knocks Puelles down with a combination, dives in, lands some big ground and pound to finish the fight. Actually almost finishes him with ground and pound, but bell goes off, goes to a decision. Silva takes it 29-28. I thought that was the right call, most likely just through the final moments of the third, as well as the guillotine in the second and landing a bit better near the end. Close fight though. I thought that this was way closer than it should have been. Puelles seemed like he took a while to even get started for most of the rounds. Managed to take it though. Good fight, quite entertaining, and we'll move on to the next fight on the card. And closing out the prelims, we had Jose Daniel Medina versus Dusko Todorovic. So I went with Dusko Todorovic for this one. I just didn't like Medina as an opponent. I just think he doesn't really make arguments to win any fights. He just kind of lays back, takes the damage, survives to a decision, but never really makes an argument for him to win any rounds. And I thought in this fight, Dusko Todorovic would just beat up on him for 3 whole rounds. Not really finish him. I didn't really expect that to happen, but I thought he would make an argument for each round to win, and Medina would just kind of take punishment, and that's about it. And I got this one correct. Dusko Todorovic won this one. It was actually by a first round submission, a way more dominant win than I predicted. In the first round, instantly Todorovic gets Medina against the cage, starts holding him there for a good part of the round. And back on the feet in the striking, Todorovic is consistently pressuring forward, landing really nicely on the head of Medina, constantly landing some big shots as well at that. He was really winding up on quite a bit of the stuff he threw. Meanwhile, Medina is just whiffing most of his shots. He's trying to throw big, trying to connect with the chin of Todorovic and put him out early, but most of what he was throwing was whiffing. And with a minute left, Todorovic gets Medina to the ground and very quickly afterwards transitions to the back, takes the back, and with 45 seconds left in the round, he locks in a rear naked choke and submits Medina. Another really bad performance from Medina. I think he probably will get cut after this. I mean, he didn't even make an argument in this one, just got beat up and then taken down and submitted. Really good win for Todorovic. It seems like he's back again. I actually don't even think he's that chinny anymore. I was worried about his chin, but he actually held up pretty well in this fight. He took quite a bit of punishment himself, and it was a really impressive win for him here. So, yeah, we'll move on to the main card. And opening up the main card, we have Santiago Luna versus Quang Lee. So I went with Santiago Luna for this one. I said by around 2 TKO. I just thought on the feet he was the better striker, and he had a good enough ground game to sort of cope with Lee's wrestling. So ultimately I thought that he would just outstrike Lee to either find a finish or take him down and find a finish on the ground. I got this one correct. Santiago Luna won this one. It was actually by around 1 TKO. But there were moments that were really concerning. Even from the start, Luna gets dropped, not badly, not like he was hurt, but he still gets caught off guard, gets dropped by Lee almost instantly into the round, manages to get into the cage, clinch and recover a little bit, but on the feet again, back on the feet, Lee is constantly tagging Luna with these shots. Lee's landing directly to the head of Luna. Luna's eating them decently well, but either way, Luna's not really landing much back. But out of nowhere, midway through the round, Luna lands a huge left hook, drops Lee, has him really hurt, and while Luna couldn't instantly finish Lee when they get back to the feet, he keeps tracking down Lee, landing these big shots on the head of him, drops him again, and then finishes him up with some follow-up shots. Good win from here, although that start was really concerning. I am worried when he goes up against someone who can hit a lot harder than Quang Lee, because Luna's defense isn't amazing. He was getting caught with these really obvious shots and constantly just getting tagged to the head. So I'm a bit nervous for him next. It was a good win here, entertaining fight nonetheless, but yeah, I'm a bit nervous to see what's next for Luna. But we'll move on to the next fight on the card. Next up on the card, we have Alexander Hernandez versus Diego Ferreira. So I went with Diego Ferreira for this one. I said by a decision win. I just thought that striking-wise, he was a lot better, and I didn't really think Alexander Hernandez, with his recent fights outside of Chase Hooper, would be able to compete with someone as good in the striking as Diego Ferreira. I actually got this one wrong. Alexander Hernandez pulled this one off. Second round KO. Very, very impressive win for him. I actually think he is on a bit of a resurgence at the moment. I counted him out twice now, but he has proved himself twice. So I could be just wrong about his recent wins. Yeah, he got a good win here. Second round KO. First round, in the striking, it was very competitive. Hernandez was being really good at his usual sort of style where he blitzes in, lands a jab and straight before jumping back out at range again, before Ferreira could land back. But throughout the round, Ferreira would land really nicely to the body with kicks. He was just constantly nailing the body with these kicks. I don't know how Hernandez kept circling around on the back foot. The whole fight, he was just circling around on the back foot, and I was just waiting for him to gas out, especially with the constant body kicks, but he never really did. And while it was a competitive round, I'd say that the constant forward pressure from Ferreira, combined with landing the bigger shots, especially later in the round, he starts letting go of the hand, starts landing nicely with the head of Hernandez. I think he likely won the first round. Very close though, because Hernandez was constantly blitzing in, landing, and then moving out of distance again. So it was kind of volume versus power here. Round 2, very similar to the last round, with Hernandez blitzing in, landing his combos, and then jumping out of range. Meanwhile, Ferreira is constantly pushing forward and landing the hardest shots of the round every now and then. And right as Ferreira starts to let the hands go a bit more, he begins taking the round back for himself around halfway through. Hernandez lands a perfectly timed counter straight right on the head that puts Ferreira down, has him really badly hurt, to which Hernandez jumps in, starts landing these stiff like straights and jabs directly to the head of Ferreira, has him out with 2 or 3 follow-up shots, but the ref just lets it keep going. Like, he lands about 15 unanswered shots on a very knocked out Ferreira. Takes a TKO win. Very, very impressive win for him. I really doubted Hernandez after the Chase Hooper fight. I thought that that was a one-off, but it appears that he is ready to compete with that Ferreira level competition. Ferreira, he looked decent, just got caught, but yeah, pretty bad loss for him here. Good fight. We'll move on to the next fight of the card though. Next up on the card was Kelvin Gastelum versus Dustin Stoltzfus. So I went with Kelvin Gastelum for this one. I think against someone like Stoltzfus, who kind of chases the finish and lets himself get sloppy in the striking. Against someone who you're not going to put away with strikes like Gastelum, I thought that would lead to him getting caught a lot more. Ultimately, Gastelum winning a decision just through landing a bit better, landing a bit more consistently. And I got this one correct. Kelvin Gastelum won this one, decision win. He did miss weight by quite a substantial amount as well. I think it was 6 pounds for middleweight as well, which is crazy. I don't know how he ever made welterweight. And there is that to consider, especially in those later rounds where he was eating some really big shots, but still a win regardless. And this was a really fun fight. First round, back and forth between the fighters. Stoltzfus was constantly landing to the legs and body of Gastelum, especially those body kicks that were really starting to just whip in. You could see the damage start to accumulate. Meanwhile, Gastelum would land a big shot here and there, but not really let his hands go as much this round. The shots that he was landing were landing good, but they weren't being thrown as often as Stoltzfus was, just kicking the legs and body, even targeting the head. He actually hit Gastelum quite hard in the head a few times this round. And on top of a takedown in the final minute of the round, I think Stoltzfus took this round quite comfortably. Second round opens up and the fight gets very scrappy very quick. Gastelum starts landing big particularly. He has Stoltzfus hurt at multiple points, panic shooting for takedowns that Gastelum denies pretty well. And throughout the round, while Stoltzfus would land here and there, more often than not, it was Gastelum landing these single punches that would really hurt Stoltzfus, put him on wobbly legs. He actually had him quite hurt for, I'd say, a large part of this round. And ultimately, that was winning Gastelum the round. In the closing minute and a bit, Gastelum lands a rapid 3-piece combo as well that drops Stoltzfus really bad. He caught him in a guillotine as well. Didn't get it fully locked in though. There is a moment at the end of the round where Stoltzfus reverses position, starts nailing Gastelum with some big shots from the back. But it was a small moment in a round that was dominated by Gastelum. I thought Gastelum took this one very convincingly, just through constantly hurting and dazing Stoltzfus. And in the third round, while Stoltzfus did have his moments in this round, landing the bigger shots here and there that were backing Gastelum up, forcing him to remove himself from the close quarter exchanges, he was also just constantly getting his takedowns denied throughout the round and was just getting more visibly hurt from these big shots over the top from Gastelum than he was really hurting Gastelum in that round. And in the final half of the round, it was pretty much only Gastelum who was landing these big shots. Stoltzfus was landing these kicks and these shots here and there, but it was Gastelum who was landing the big damaging ones to the face of Stoltzfus. And when it goes to the decision, Gastelum takes a 29-28 decision. Someone gave it a 30-27, 30-27, yeah, which I don't get. I don't get how you could give Gastelum the first. I thought Stoltzfus looked really good in that first round. But this was a really fun scrap. Both fighters were putting it all on the table. Huge damage dealt out. Both fighters were swinging to finish. It is unfortunate that Gastelum missed weight by so much because Stoltzfus was hitting him with these really hard shots that Gastelum was just eating, and I do think it was that weight difference that came into play a little bit, but still, regardless, fun fight from both fighters. Stoltzfus did well given the situation. Gastelum just ultimately took the decision, and we'll move on to the next fight on the card. Next up on the card was Rafa Garcia versus Jared Gordon. So I went with Jared Gordon for this one. I said by a first round KO because I thought outside of, your Charles Oliveira fights, your Paddy Pimblett's, the best of the best, he has some really, really good performances, and he is a very solid athlete. Meanwhile, Rafa Garcia recently went to a really close decision with Vince Pichel. Just basically has way closer fights with way lesser competition. So I thought Jared Gordon would find easy work in getting this one done. I was actually wrong with this one. Rafa Garcia won this one. Third round KO as well. So very impressive finish. And even before the KO, he was winning and leading the fight most of the time. First round opens up. Very slow start of the round. Even striking. Garcia does have a slight edge. But as the round goes on, Gordon starts to pick it up. Landing more volume. Landing the cleaner shots. But late in the round, Garcia catches a kick from Garcia, drops him with a big straight right. It wasn't like a hurt drop, it was more just like he threw him off balance. Still landed the shot pretty clean. And from there, just starts landing the better shots of the round, most likely taking the round. But it was a really close first round. Honestly, I could see how you can make an argument that Gordon won the first. Second round opens up, and very early on in the round, Gordon starts landing big. He even hurts Garcia, and when chasing a finish, Garcia catches him in a guillotine that Gordon puts himself on bottom position to get out of. Just gives up the position just to survive. And for a good part of the round, it's spent with Garcia holding top position before holding Gordon up against the cage for a good part of it. And in the second half of the round, both fighters are just standing their ground in the middle of the octagon, each having their moment. Gordon was hurting Garcia with these big hook shots, but Garcia would recover and just kept landing these stiff jabs and straights, as well as an elbow as well to the head of Gordon that cut him open. Looked really bad when it came to the judging on damage. I'd give this round to Garcia. Once again, a really close round for him. But I think the damage from the elbow, the constant damage on the feet, which was roughly even with Gordon. But I think on top of the submission attempt, he did just do a little bit better this round. But once again, another really close round. Third round opens up, and very early in the round, Garcia starts landing big with his elbows to the head of Gordon. Starts causing more bleeding, as well as having him dazed with some big shots that are connecting really good. Gordon would throw back here and there and was getting some good shots in, but he'd more likely than not get caught with counters. And midway through the round, when Gordon leans in to throw, Garcia lands a big right hand that drops him bad. And after after trying to lock in a rear naked choke, Gordon just grits through, doesn't manage to submit him. He gives it up and just starts giving some elbow ground and pound to Gordon. Finishes the fight in the third round. Good win for Rafa Garcia. I'm actually really surprised they managed to pull this off because Gordon is really solid and Garcia has made it closer with way worse competition. Granted, Bilal Muhammad did tweet afterwards that Jared Gordon got hit by a car. I'm not joking. He got hit by a car, I think, on fight week. Had dislocated his knee. That's why he had that blue knee guard on. How true that is, I don't know, but that is crazy if that's the case. So maybe it was an off performance because of that from Gordon, but still a good win for Garcia, nothing taking away from that. And we'll move on to the next fight on the card. Now onto the co-main event, Rob Font versus David Martinez. So I went with Rob Font for this one. I feel like this was the kind of obvious choice. Rob Font's a veteran. He has way more experience. Realistically, I think he should have won this one. David Martinez, man, pulled it off. I can't believe it. This is going to throw some massive questions into bantamweight right now with David Martinez already having a ranking. But, I mean, good performance from him here. I mean, I can't complain. He looked really good. So, first round, Font seems to be the better striker early on. Early on, he actually starts to go into the center of the octagon, starts landing these big shots on the head of Martinez, as well as chasing him down as he would circle around the octagon. Martinez was landing these really snappy kicks. He's really fast with his kicks that I've noticed this fight. And they were landing on the guard and damaging the arms of Font, but weren't doing any major damage that were fight ending. But as the round goes on, Martinez starts to let the hands go a lot more. Gets these big shots over the top in the closing seconds of the round. And with a massive spinning wheel kick in literally the final second that connects big, I think he likely won the round just through that second half where he was tagging Font pretty good. but it was a really close round. Font was landing really nice at the start, doing quite a bit of damage early on, so that round was 50-50 for me. Honestly, I could have seen it either way. Second round opens up and Font's back on the front foot. He's pushing Martinez back against the cage, landing some big shots on him. Unlike last round though, Martinez isn't throwing anything back. He's not even throwing the kicks like before. He's just kind of waiting there. He would land a counter here and there, but not really actively throwing himself. And for the whole round, it's just Font pushing up on Martinez, landing 1 or 2 3-piece combos before resetting in the center again, dealing more and more damage as the round would go on, and clearly taking the second round in my opinion. Third round opens up, and both fighters just start brawling from the start, both winning these moments. You know, Font would hit Martinez with this massive shot, but Martinez would come back and just counter with this massive hook that would hurt Font pretty badly. But I thought Martinez was landing the way better shots this round. And it seems like Martinez has a second win because after that second round where he slowed down significantly, he just turned up the pace. He started reintroducing the kicks as well. They started landing a lot better because Font was dropping his guard quite often. And ultimately, I think that it was Font slowing down this round, not really throwing much and letting Martinez slowly pick away at him. With a mix of different shots. As well in the final seconds, Martinez hurt Font really badly and started landing these massive ground and pound shots that ultimately won Martinez the round. Another thing as well, Martinez landed about 40 shots after the bell because the ref couldn't hear him because the crowd was so loud as well. So that was a really bad look, but still, regardless, I think Martinez would have won this one. 29-28 decision. Impressive performance from Martinez. The fact that he stepped up late notice against someone like Rob Font and won. Can't take that away from him. Really weird now the fact that he's going to be ranked, but still a really good performance against a really tricky veteran in Rob Font. Rob Font didn't even look that bad this fight. It's just that he kind of let himself get outscored as the fight went on. Yeah, but really good performance from Martinez. And now the main event, Diego Lopes versus Gene Silva. So I went with Diego Lopes for this one. I just thought that there were levels. Lopes has got a close fight over Volkanovski. Arguably won 2 rounds of that fight, had Volkanovski hurt bad in the second and fourth, beat the brakes off of Ortega. Meanwhile, Gene Silva got a win over Bryce Mitchell, and while his wins were very dominant, every single win leading up to this fight was a complete one-sided brawl from Silva. Lopes is just different when it comes to skill level, and I thought Lopes would catch him with something big, particularly in these close quarter clinch exchanges where Lopes thrives, and I thought that would put Silva down. I got this one correct, actually 100% correct. Diego Lopes won this one. Second round KO, TKO technically. Good win for him here. Silva didn't even look that bad, but it exposed some real flaws in Silva's game that don't transition to these high level fights. So first round opens up and it was a really strong start from Silva. He was constantly throwing these front kicks that were connecting clean with the chin of Lopes. One really connected clean. I'm surprised it didn't daze Lopes. Lopes eats it, just keeps walking forward as well. And he'd just take the punishment and land his own big counter shots. In fact, Lopes did actually start to pick it up later in the round when it came to the striking. And midway through the round, when Lopes catches a spin kick from Silva and uses to take him down, from top position, Lopes breaks sort of Silva's trying to hug him, keep him down. He breaks that, postures up, and starts landing these massive 12-6 elbows on the head of Silva. The top of Silva's head cuts him open from the first one and just keeps landing them. On top of some really big ground and pound as well. He really just kept throwing these massive shots from top position. Had Silva hurt at points. Silva survives, manages to get out of there, and back on the feet, while Silva is keeping it close, Lopes is just constantly thriving in these these close quarter exchanges, particularly in the pocket. He'd land these nice hooks and these uppercuts. Silva was hitting him, but it wasn't really dazing him as much or doing as much damage as that ground and pound was. So ultimately, the first round pretty comfortably goes to Lopes. Second round, really strong start from Silva. It seemed like he was going to take the fight back. When it came to the striking, he was landing these massive shots that Lopes was just somehow eating, but they were still landing, still accumulating. Lopes wasn't really throwing back as much. He was mainly just walking forward, taking the punishment to get some of his own off. And while Silva was landing more and probably most likely landing the bigger shots of the round, whenever Lopes would land, it would visibly daze Silva a lot more. It seemed like Silva wasn't taking the shots as well from Lopes, particularly in these close quarter exchanges. Lopes would land this hook or this uppercut that would reset Silva's momentum. He wasn't as showboaty this fight, I've noticed. He was a lot more locked in. And while Silva was constantly winning this round, in the final minute, he actually seems to hurt Lopes. He has him backing up against the cage, quite hurt. But instead of trying to find the finish with what was working with these big shots over the top, these massive overhands, these big straight rights, he starts throwing these spinning elbows where 2 of them miss. He connects decently with one, and while he's chasing Lopes down trying to land a spinning elbow or a straight punch, Lopes gives him his own spinning elbow and lands it clean across the temple of Silva, drops him badly. puts him away with some follow-up ground and pound, some hammer fist to the side of the head. Silva was trying to get back up again, but either way, I think with a couple more seconds without the ref stopping it, he still would have been put out. So ref jumps in, stops in the second round, TKO. Really, really good win for Lopes. I don't know why he was an underdog, but it was a good upset win from him here. Proved that there are levels to this division. The fact that a win over a top 10 doesn't translate to a win over the top 2, top 5. Silva didn't even look that bad. Silva looked pretty good in the striking. I think his biggest issue is his need to constantly make the fight entertaining, showboat, land these weird flashy shots, when honestly he probably would have taken that second round really convincingly if he just didn't try and throw these spinning elbows, didn't try and dap Lopes up as well. But still, Lopes looked really good. I'm not saying that Lopes would have lost this fight if it continued. I think it was a really close fight. Yeah, really fun main event as well to cap this fight night off. So that's it, guys. That was UFC Fight Night Lopes versus Silva, and a recap of everything that happened this event. How did we do this card? Not great. I only got 54% of my predictions correct on who would win, which is actually pretty decent on a card filled with so many upsets. And of that, I got the method by 57%. Cam did a little worse this week. 46% of his predictions on who would win were correct. He really flunked out on that main card. Only 2 correct predictions. Where would I rank this card? This was a very solid one. There wasn't anything crazy, no real fight of the year contenders or anything like that. But every fight was just solid. Started off strong with Daniil, ended strong with Lopes. Just every fight in between that was really solid. Bit of a few fights that were lacking in entertainment, but not really that many. So I'm going to put this one at the bottom of B tier. Just a very solid fight night card. Yeah, this was a really fun fight night, really fun main event. I think I was probably one of the most hyped for this main event out of all the fight nights. Not particularly stacked, and yeah, next week no UFC. I'll be making maybe 1 or 2 just other type of videos. UFC Perth after that, excited for that. And yeah, I'll see you guys in a future video. Bye bye.